Chapter 1.
"Do I really have to get up there?"
Actress Beatrice Hathaway whined. "Yes, Beatrice, you do," Bryce replied, with an air of patience he did not feel.
"But I suffer from vertigo,"
she complained, pointing at the giant moon suspended from midair above her. "Look, Bea, it's perfectly safe. You'll be suspended in a harness. You can't possibly fall," Bryce said. Beatrice was a supreme pain in the rear end. But she was a rising star. Hollywood material. Rumor had it that way, anyway. Beatrice continued to pout and look unsure. She was dressed in a costume of a virgin white dress, with angel wings, complete with gold tinsel halo. She looked cherubic and cute. Bryce sighed theatrically. The curse of working with actors. They were so demanding and, well, there was no other word for it. They were quite simply so fucking dramatic. If he had any sense, he'd quit directing immediately and get another job, but instead he dismissed the thought as a fleeting weakness. He was living his dream, after all, or so he told himself. He was lucky to be here, so he told himself. He took a sip of vodka from his hip flask and shuddered a little at the taste. Dutch courage, he told himself. Not a problem. He would stop tomorrow. But the reality was tomorrow never came. Not for Bryce Brooks. Not where alcohol was concerned. His wife had left because she had found the old vodka bottles, still full, but of water, not vodka. An old trick, and she had become wise to it. The last blazing row, when she had screamed that all alcohols was selfish and only cared where the next drink was coming from, she'd bundled the kids in the car and gone tearing off. Bryce had thought she might have an accident driving like that, but she obviously hadn't, because his divorce papers had arrived that morning. Rumor had it that she was marrying an investment banker. How la-di-da for her. Perhaps he treated her with a little human kindness. He pushed the thought of Gina in a white wedding dress, and how beautiful she had looked the day she had pledged herself to him, to the back of his mind. Head ducked in that shy way, she had the light sparkling off the diamond impersonation tiara that had looked so like the real thing, it was quite literally unreal. He shook and kicked himself mentally. Focus, he muttered to himself sternly.
"What was that? I didn't hear you,"
one of the technicians said, obviously under the mistaken impression that Bryce was talking to him. "Oh, nothing. Right, everyone take a break," Bryce instructed, clapping his hands together, mainly for effect. When everyone had trooped off, muttering, he flounced across the stage and stood in front of the young actress. "Bea!" he hissed loudly. He looked behind him. There was no one in direct earshot. "Please do this for me. The production might fold. The backers are getting pretty fucking jittery," he resumed more gently.
"It can't be that bad,"
the actress said. Her voice was melodic and sweet to listen to. You could quite literally fall into that voice, he thought unhelpfully. "If this folds, I go bankrupt. We need the audiences to prove it was worth the investment," he replied tensely. He was considering falling to his knees and begging the spoilt brat to do her job. But he might be out of earshot, but he had full visual on everybody, so he maintained his dignity, crossing his arms behind his back, sending a prayer skywards, and waiting her out with bated breath. The young woman seemed to consider his words for perhaps 30 seconds, and then slowly, reluctantly, she nodded. She looked down at her dainty silver slipper-like shoes the costume designer thought she looked just adorable in.
"Anything for you,"
she said. Bryce knew that Beatrice secretly fancied him. She blushed a deep scarlet when he was in the vicinity of her, looking quickly down at the ground until he'd passed her by. He had used this fact at his disposal to shamelessly manipulate her, but he had felt no shame at the realization. So it was that when they resumed rehearsal, Beatrice Hathaway climbed up into the harness, and it was then that the hand of fate intervened.